Story. Your story. What's your story? How could it help other people? So earlier today, I shared a video, as I said that I would be doing last week. Shared one from Dean Graziosi, one of my mentors, and he really contextualized what I do because when I came out of the corporate world and I had a lot of ill health and I was in rehab and I was trying to recovery and all that kind of stuff, and coming out of that, the only thing that I knew was that I needed to use my experience to help others. I needed to share my story, my life experience, what had happened to me, what worked, what didn't, try and make sense of it and help other people. So when I came out of the corporate world, that's how I made sense of my whole journey. Remembering that I'm on like my 7th chance of life. And I just knew that to be true. What I didn't know at the time was that sharing your experience, sharing your story so that it can help somebody else. And in my case, I was trying to help people either avoid the paths I'd been on, or if they're already on the path, get them off that path as quickly as possible, overcome the stuff in their way and go and live their best life. So that was the aim. And I didn't know all the ins and outs of that. But what it transpires is that's called, yes, we can say that's coaching. Yeah, we can say that's mentoring and that's training. Yeah, all those things. But as a bigger industry, it's the self-education industry. It's the knowledge industry. It's using our knowledge and then sharing it to help other people. And that's what Dean was talking about earlier in the day. And if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. It was based on something that Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger had done a couple of years ago. And it was about fighting inflation. Inflation is still here. Cost of living, going into recession, it's pretty crazy at the moment. But what are the couple of things that we can really do to protect ourselves from that? And it was, we invest in ourselves, right? Invest in ourselves so that we're a better asset in our lives and in the lives of other people. And also to be a part of an industry that is growing, but has very low costs to get into it, but high margins because the value of the product, if you like, or the service that you give is high. It's not you're not ripping people off. It's a high value product, but because it's using your knowledge, your experience, you haven't got to go and build a widget. You haven't got to build a physical product. You haven't got to have a warehouse of physical products. So it's very low cost. So that's what Dean was talking about. And I didn't know that was the industry that I was ultimately going to be going into. But we can talk about the industry, but if that's what it is, but what I really wanted to do was say, it's all about story. So let me bring this to life for you. So my 20 years in corporate world, in financial services, going from, a rookie marketing assistant in an oversized 3-piece suit that seemed to do an awful lot of proofreading, went through over the course of 20 years, climbed the corporate ladder, survived every restructure that happened every 6 to 18 months without fail, mergers, takeovers, the lot. And over those 20 years, did lots of good stuff. And ultimately became responsible for millions of clients and billions of pounds worth of investments, pensions and profits, right? And you go, well, that's not a bad, ladder climb. And on the face of it, it was. But if you know my story, it took a heck of a toll. So behind I've got this job and the salary and the bonus and the nice house and the holidays and the car and I've got a loving family and it just looked ideal. But on the inside or behind the scenes, I'm broken. During that time, I experienced every facet of stress from low-level stress right from the beginning. I can trace it now, reflecting back, trace it back. Right at the beginning, I was already edgy and stressy because I wanted to do a good job. It came from a point of view from wanting to be conscientious and do a good job and not let people down. And I think a lot of people are like that, right? The challenge is if nobody actually teaches you how to be that, but also deal with the amount of workload and your time and the balance. And especially as during that 20 years I got married and had two amazing boys, so I'm trying to raise a family at the same time. If people aren't, work don't tell you that. They'll stick you on this time management course. They'll throw an Eisenhower matrix at you and go, yeah, just note the stuff that's urgent and important and the stuff you can delegate and get rid of. And then you get back to your desk and you go, everything's urgent and important. Right? It's useless. It's a really handy tool if they tell you how to actually use it, but they don't. They just stick it, oh, just do the urgent important. So when you haven't got the tools, when you haven't got the education for that, when they're not teaching you that, what happens is that low level stress turns into high stress, that turned into low mood, that turned into depression, that turned into generalized anxiety disorder, that turned into insomnia, that turned into liver disease, and I didn't even drink, that turned into full-blown burnout where my body and mind shut down on me twice, turned into self-harm, turned into me deciding to take my life. That was the defining journey of my 20 years in corporate. You can see all the success and all the success stories and what we did for the industry and clients and colleagues and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, lovely and wonderful. But behind the scenes, that was the real journey. And I nearly didn't come out of it. So when I came out of that, that's where I was then passionate about, I have got to use this. Because also, you got to bear in mind that I'm on my 7th chance of life. I've died once and come back. I've been in the arms of my wife on my living room floor twice, taking my last 2 breaths. Twice I've done that. I've survived 2 car crashes, still recovering from that last one. And I decided to take my life. Most people don't get a second chance. I'm on my 7th chance of life. So when I was coming out of all of this, it was like, I have been through everything I've been through. I have got to use this. The reason is the universe was just pushing and testing, saying, I know this is going to be tough, but I need you to go through this, Martin. And I trust that you can. Because at the other end of this, you're going to need to share this. You're going to have to help somebody who maybe doesn't have the support that you do, that doesn't right now have the strength that you do. This is how I've made sense of my story. And so I came out of all of that and go, I've got to help people. So people who are, and it started with managers and leaders in the corporate world being stressed about their workload. Their work and their time were totally out of control. They were working crazy hours like I used to. I used to work 72-hour days. Not an exaggeration. 72-hour days I used to work. I had a to-do list nicely in an Excel spreadsheet with 10 tabs, but I had over 80 items in every tab. I had a to-do list of over 800 items and it was growing every day. It's like, it was totally and utterly out of control. And more just kept going because you're conscientious and you want to do a good job and you don't want to let people down. And there's a restructure just around the corner, so there's a whole lot of fear in there as well. And the performance management, they're just looking for the slightest margins to knock you down. And if you get knocked down, then you won't get a pay rise, you won't get a bonus, and you'll be the first one out in the next restructure. All of that was my world. So coming out of that, it was like, man, nobody teaches you how to navigate all of that. And how are you supposed to navigate that? For you personally, your own health, your own productivity, your own professionalism, but also balancing that with the family. So that's what I then focused on. When I first came out, my Act Like a Hero program was just trying to take what I had figured out about workload and time and our habits and sleep and what I'd learned and try to help managers and leaders who were in the corporate world that were struggling with this stuff. And I put a program around that and some free resources and a free mini website. And that was the starting point. That's me using my life experience. This, it was spread over 20 years, but it was essentially, right, you're a manager, you're a leader, and you're totally stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're anxious, you don't know how on earth you're going to do this, you're trying to get everything done at the same time, all by last Friday. You can't do it, your health is suffering, your family's suffering, the relationships you've got with your family are falling apart, you're not spending the quality time with your, especially young children, you're not getting home for tea time, you're not getting home for bedtime, you're missing out on precious moments. I don't want that, right? So that's where my story came into. This is the self-education industry. And some of you, I know, you own your own business. Many of you own your own businesses. And some of you are coaches and therapists and mentors and trainers and all that kind of stuff. But I'm reflecting going, that was part of my journey. And there was some stuff there that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But in all that 20 years, nobody taught me how to navigate any of it. Sticking somebody on a time management course isn't gonna cut it. Having somebody come in and do a mindfulness class as a lunch and learn isn't gonna cut it. So what I then developed, if you remember a few years back, for some of you who've been on my journey, I created a whole suite of things. I really refined it as a result of Tony and Dean's events and their training and their system. I created the Stress Dad to Calm Dad, so I programs, and because I wanted to really focus on, look, I'm a dad. I know what that feels like, the pressure of being a dad, and as a man, and I'm not saying that to be weird. It's like I just know to my core what that's like, and then how we can drive ourselves, and the impact it can have. I know women do the same. It was just coming from that point of view. I'll go, if I narrow this right down, how can I speak to dads? And I did that over the course of 2 years and put together a whole load of stuff from events to lunch and learns to a signature online program to coaching to all manner of things, blueprints and roadmaps. But I created that from my experience. But I did enhance it because by that point I'd also learned that actually, you know what, the starting point isn't the workload all the time, it's mindset. If we're going in thinking we've got to do everything all at the same time, all by last Friday, it's our responsibility to do that, then you can have the best tools in the world, but you're not going to do it. You're not going to use them. And even if you use them, you're going to use them for a short amount of time and go, they don't work, I've got to get everything done. It's like, you're not there to do everything, you're there to make the biggest difference. You're employed to make the biggest difference. And if you've got your own business, I'm kind of like, this is additional information for you. If you're a business owner, you're there to make the biggest difference. You're not there to run around like a headless chicken trying to get everything done all at the same time. In fact, as a business owner, you would have come in to own your own business for more freedom and a lifestyle, not to work 24/7 and 72-hour days like some people do in corporate. So what I learned was that now that I'd owned my own business as well and I figured out how that worked, it was like, right, okay, well, it's mindset first and foremost, because 80% of it is mindset. Then workload, some real practical stuff on workload, some really practical stuff on time, how you can focus your time. And then that daily habits that you can build that keep you on track. And then the compound effect of that is marvelous. That's my work leadership model. So next week, you're going to see a video from Tony that talks about patterns. Identify patterns, use patterns, and then create your own patterns. Well, I created my own pattern going, right, this is what works. This is now what's worked for me. So I created work leadership model. So that's really been a mainstay of what I've done. So I took pain and suffering and a path that I wouldn't want anybody else to have and go, look, there's a different way to this. I mean, yes, you could just get out, but a lot of people don't have the courage to do that because they're in fear mode, but they don't necessarily need to do that. They just need to get a handle on things. Because when we can be even more productive in less hours and spend more time with our family and the money's coming in and we're feeling good about the job and we've got a better sense of health, it's like, oh, yeah, this is all right. I'm okay with this. But when it's all falling apart, it's not so good. So this is my example of taking what I learned and then making it into a framework, making it into something, a message that can help, that's very specific for somebody, for certain people, and then helping them with it. That's what it is. So what's your story? I went from that, and I still do all of that, but then you've seen the extreme confidence stuff. So my first firewalk and my first arrow break, it was like, I need this in my tool bag. Because what I was finding was that people really had things that they needed to overcome. And I put a framework around that that Tony helped me with, the framework, to go, right, you've got a story or a belief or a habit that's really getting in your way. How can we dismantle that? How can we build a new one? Brilliant. But I don't want to just leave it at that, because that's intellectually you've done that. Brilliant. But how do we then bring in something that embodies it? Oh, we can smash through wooden boards. We can break arrows on our throats. We can walk across glass, or we can do a firewalk. Or it's like, because then when you do the impossible, oh, you unleash an amazing amount of confidence, right? Extreme confidence. So I've then added that to my toolbox to go, right, okay. And I jumped off the Stratosphere Hotel to conquer my fear of heights. 108 floors up above the Nevada desert. I've also walked across those hot coals. I've done the arrow breaks. I've done the ball breaks. And this works. So again, it's me taking, there's stuff holding me back. There's stuff that's getting in the way of my quality of life and the life that I wanted to live in the future. And what I did, I took it to an extreme, but I put a framework around that. My fear framework, for example, I created that as well. Focus, energy, action, results. That you see that I embody that when I jump off the Stratosphere Hotel. I go, if you've got stuff that's in your way, if you've got a story that's in your way, and we're talking to go, I can see this is there's resistance here. Here's how I can help. So I've lived it, I've embodied it, I've put a framework around it, and now I can help people with that. And what I found was that you help people overcome the stuff that's immediately in their way, but the conversation then quickly goes to, what does your ideal life look like? What does your most extraordinary life look like? And that's where extraordinary life came in. Because then we were going, well, what does that actually mean? Most people don't even give this any thought. They're just drifting through life. We've talked about this, the river of life. But if we can get out of the river of life on a regular basis, we start working on our life. We start building a better boat, a bigger boat, a higher boat, one that can navigate the stormy weather and the rapids and all that kind of stuff and avoid the rocks. But we can also have a better quality of life. But what does that look like? And that's an art and a science that then I learned, started applying, going, this is amazing, this works. When somebody's in the right place for that. And sometimes it's somebody comes out of corporate and they go, right, I'm done with that part of my life, right? Yeah, it was okay while it lasted, but I want to design the next 10 years. I want the next chapter. It's like, that's when that comes into its own. It's like, right, okay, next chapter, brilliant. We'll still use some of what we've had in the past, but now let's look forward. So again, I'm using my experience, my knowledge of what's worked to then help other people. So I hope that this isn't me promoting me. This is me saying, look, I've got stories in my life. You don't have to have it's not about the whole life. It's going, when I needed to overcome a fear, something that was really getting in the way of my quality of life, here's how I did it. When I was in the corporate world, or even when I'm in my own business, I need to be able to do that and be really productive, make the impact I want, but without it having a negative impact on my health, and making sure I've got the balance with my family. If you want to do that, right, let's talk about work leadership. And I'll bring in other things as well to help with that. So what's your story? What is it that you've done? What experience have you got that you could help somebody that's in your situation? Because I know there are people, millions of people all over the world, that are sat at their desk in corporate or even owning their own business, and they're stressed out of their heads and they do not have the balance that they want. They don't have the quality of life that they want. The paycheck might even be coming in and they might indeed be pretty darn wealthy, but they're financially wealthy. They're not life wealthy. So it's about looking at that. And if I there's other things that I've been through. So when I talk about my seventh chance of life, I was thinking about this recently, literally over the weekend. So this is stuff that I haven't talked about, or I haven't put frameworks about, or anything like that. But it's like I've been somebody who's died and been brought back. So I have a vivid memory. I got a picture in my head of me looking at my lifeless body at the bottom of a swimming pool, about 40 feet up in the air. There is no emotion. It is pure calm. It is pure observation. And this image is burnt into my brain as if it was yesterday. And it has stayed with me ever since it happened. There are people out there that have had similar out-of-body experiences, and they try to make sense of it. And I know I tried to make sense of this for a long time, and it kind of haunts you and drives you in equal measure, and it's something really to get your head round. But there are people out there, and maybe, I hope it's not you. Maybe it is. But if I was to put something together and I was to talk about this, what reassurance and support could that bring to other people that are, I've brought meaning to my life, but maybe they haven't yet. They haven't figured that out. Maybe they need some support with that. I've been taking my last 2 breaths on my living room floor twice in the arms of my wife. I've said about that. But here's the thing that I don't talk about, is that in those last 2 breaths, it's very specific, because there is an indescribable peace that I experienced that I can't really describe. The best words for it is total and utter peace. Not panic, not fear, not anything like that. In the arms of my wife, knowing what was about to happen, and there was just a peace. And I thought, well, maybe that's just me. But you know what? It was last year, Jeremy Renner, he's an actor, he was Hawkeye in the Marvel movies, right? Great singer as well. He talked about his accident about the same time as I had my last car accident. He had a horrific accident with a snow plow, and he died, came back, like terrible injuries, massive recovery. But he talked about it in an interview. He shared an interview, and he said there was this moment where I knew I was about to die, and it was just indescribable peace. He used my words, and I was like, it's not me. I'm not crazy. It's like just hearing Jeremy talk about that was like, wow, it's a thing. So now I'm like, how many other people out there have felt that? And again, are trying to make sense of that. Jeremy's got an amazing view of life. He said, I can't have another bad day in my life because I've had the worst day possible. I can't have a bad day in my life now. I mean, what an amazing philosophy to have, right? But just by sharing that, it gives people some perspective. It gives people that might have experienced something similar. It's like, wow, I could do something with that. I know some of my story is extreme, but maybe it's not about the extreme stuff. I've had car crashes and had to recover afterwards. So is there something like that? That's where I started my Project Rebuild Diaries, a YouTube series. And I've actually got the content that's worth another 2 series in that. I haven't released it yet. I haven't got round to doing that yet. But the reason I was sharing was because if anybody's trying to overcome an accident of any description or an injury, and they're going into rehab and physio, what to expect, what the journey could look like. I haven't monetized that. I've just shared that to go, hey, if this is you, here's my experience. I'm just documenting my journey. It might help you. Here's kind of some of the lessons that I've learned. So I don't know what it is for you. Like I said, a lot of my journey is kind of extreme, but it doesn't need to be extreme. Maybe you've got a passion or a hobby. Mara's an incredible singer, right? And she loves to help other people sing and act and perform. Somebody might be a really good gardener. It might just be a little passion, a hobby you've got, but maybe you've got some hints and tips that somebody who's just starting out on their first garden. It's a little plot of land they got, and they're starting their first garden. And maybe you've got the top 10 things to start your garden. Or Mara's got the top 3 things that you could do to prepare your voice for singing. Maybe it's something in you have had a health issue. Maybe you've overcome some health issues. Maybe you're still overcoming some health issues. But what have you learned along the way? That if you've got this, I'm with you. I've been through this, and it can be tough. So here's some of my best recommendations, my best suggestions of how to navigate that. Maybe it's something in your relationships. I mean, maybe you've got divorced. Maybe it's been messy. How do you navigate that? Or maybe you've been divorced and you made it a child-centric divorce and all parties are happy. How did you do that? How did you have an amicable divorce? Or maybe you've got an amazing relationship. You know, Em and I have got an amazing relationship. What makes that work? People are looking for great relationships. Well, how did people stay together for 25, 30, 40, 50 years? How do they do it? What's their secret? There's stuff that we can do that can help people with that. Maybe it's something in your business. Maybe you've really grown and studied social media and you're really good at that, or email marketing, or marketing in general, or sales, and you're really comfortable doing sales conversations, whereas so many people are not comfortable doing sales conversations. Maybe you're really confident on Zoom or going live, but there's people that they want to do it, but they're camera shy. And you could give them some tips. I don't know what it is for you. I don't know what your story is. I don't know what the thing is that you've bounced back from, or you've recovered from, or you've navigated, or you've studied and you've got really good at it. You don't have to be the world's best at it. You just need to be 1 or 2 or 3 steps ahead of somebody who's just starting. Because what we can all do when we share our story, when we share our life lessons, we're helping somebody avoid pain, suffering, frustration. We're saving them trying to figure it out themselves, which takes so much time and trial and error. So if we can help somebody go quicker with less pain, suffering and frustration, more enjoyment, and get to where they want to get to quicker, maybe they do it quicker than we do. I mean, isn't that an amazing thing to do? Isn't that really part of an extraordinary life in some ways? You know, an extraordinary life is different for everybody, right? We say that. Some people want a very simple life. Some people it's about the extravaganza of life. But maybe we could all agree that living an extraordinary life, very often living with passion and purpose and meaning and making a difference out there, that to know that we matter, like those sorts of things come up in conversation when we talk about living our best life or our most extraordinary life. And how do we do that? Well, we do that by what we've learned and sharing what we've learned with others that could help others. And whether you do this for free because you're helping your family or your friends or your neighbor in conversation, or whether it's you're helping out a society or a charity or a club, and you're just gifting your skills, your knowledge to go and help people, or whether you're monetizing this in terms of your own business right now and how far you've come, or it's a side thing that you're looking for to bring extra income or revenue in. Whatever it is, you have stories. And there's an art and a science to kind of extracting that knowledge, making it make sense, identifying the people that it could help, and then getting it out there, right? This is what I'm passionate about. And you can see that this has been my journey, and I made this decision before I even knew this was an industry. I just knew that this is what my life meant. I just needed to do this. But a lot of people, most people, really, they've got experience, and it might be, you know, an off chance conversation they have with a friend, and they're going through something, and they go, "Oh, I went through something similar. This might help," and that's really cool. That's brilliant. But it's sporadic. It's like, but if we just step back and went, "Wow, what are some of the things that I could really help somebody else with, and what could I do with that? How could I get that out there?" If I've thought about this just a little bit more, when a sporadic conversation does happen, you've got a little bit more structure to it, a little bit more impact to it. Again, whether it's free advice or whether you're monetizing it, it doesn't really matter. Either way, you've now got, you've thought about this more, and it's going to be more impactful. It's going to help people even more. And so I encourage you today, I brought this to life, right? I encourage you today to just think about your story. And maybe you're already doing some of this in your own business, for example. But maybe you could kind of just tighten this up a little bit and go, what is my story? I do this. Instead of going, I do this. Yeah, but why do you do this? What's the story behind it? And then when you look at it, are there just maybe a couple of extra lessons in there? Are there a couple of extra things that you could share? Or if you're not doing this and you've got your business here, it's like, well, actually, as I've grown this business and I've done this and that and I've had this experience, this story I have over here, that's really relevant to my clients, either before they become a client sometimes, when they're a client, or even when they might move on and then you go, oh, it's kind of like aftercare. It's like, what are those things that we can share with them? I'm passionate about this. This is my life. And I feel, because of my journey, I feel I've got a moral and ethical obligation to share what I know. You know, that's just my view of the world. That's my philosophy on my life. But I want you to just think about this stuff. You don't have to have all the answers right now. You don't have to know how you were going to do it or anything like that. But I just encourage you to look at your story, your life. What have you learned? Yeah, some of it is probably the hardships in life. What are some of the things that you've learned that might be able to help somebody? Because they're where you were and you know how painful that can be. Or maybe it's on the lighter side of life. Like I said, somebody wants to be a gardener. They want to sing. They want to perform. Maybe they want to write a book. I mean, I've been a co-author of 6 books. So if somebody wanted to write a book, I've got some, I could come up with some hints and tips on how they might be able to do that. I haven't done that, but that's something I could do. What is it for you? What is it for you? And I just want to get you excited about your life, your story, and how you can use it to help other people. A lot of people, when we look at kind of the past, our experience, they can get stuck in the past and they resent the past, and it's been a tough past, and the last thing they want to do is think about it. But very often, by having that sort of relationship with it, they are actually stuck in the past. But what we're saying here is you can use the past for amazing good. You can make a difference, and the ripple effect is amazing. And you've got stuff that you're doing right now that if you just thought about it, you could put something together and go, hey, this is where I am. I'm not pretending to be the world's leading expert on this, but I've got a bit of experience. Here's some stuff that might help you if you're just starting off. So what is it for you? What's your story? What could you help? If you already help people with your story, what is it? Share it. Share it in the comments. Because you never know who's watching. Somebody might go, oh my goodness, I need that support. And if maybe you're not, what could it be? Just have some fun with this. You're not committing to anything. You're not committed to setting up a new business or something. But what are some of the experiences that you've had that you think, actually, you know what? If I had had somebody that could have told me X, Y, and Z 5 years ago, it would have saved me a heck of a lot of heartache and a lot of frustration. And I'd have got through it quicker. Like, what are those things for you? Really have a little think about this. Put it in the discussion. Put it in the comments. Share this so that we can have a discussion about this and we can identify those sorts of amazing ideas and those amazing opportunities that you have, and the amazing opportunities that other people have got to learn from you. Food for thought for today. That's what I wanted to share. I'm a bit passionate about this. I don't know if you've noticed. I'm just going to check. I'm going to wobble the screen, do a refresh, see if there's any comments just before we wrap up. Colin! Hey there, Colin. It's good to see you. First time joining one of my lives. Brilliant. Well, I hope you found it useful. And if you missed any part of it, then you can go back. But hopefully this has got you thinking. This is the energy. This is the vibe we bring every Monday. Setting you up for the week, but also getting you thinking about stuff. And certainly we're talking about the stories at the moment and how we can help other people. So I think that's a rich part of the Extraordinary Life. So thank you, Colin, for being here. And share, engage. You know, it'd be great to be gifting you one of those £500 coaching sessions that I gift out every month. Brilliant to see you, Mara. A great big hola to you too. I know we've had conversations about your passion and bringing back your passions, and now you're out there doing it, and so you're an embodiment of this, and I love that, because your heart is in performing and helping others perform. So brilliant. So I'm glad that I still got some more viewers. So thank you for joining. I'd really be interested in what you think about this, and share your stories. You don't need to share the whole thing. I've shared a lot. I've shared a lot of different stories this time to bring this to life. But just pick one. Pick one short story in your life and go, yeah. If I knew these 3 things when I started, that would have been really helpful. Because I guarantee you are not the only person to have gone through whatever it was that you've gone through, or to have learned or experienced whatever you've learned and experienced. And there's always somebody coming up that's going to be facing that new, and you can help them. I mean, that's pretty darn rewarding, you know. Like I said, whether this is for free, whether this is just in general, or whether you include this in your business. And I do encourage you, business owners, really look at this, because this is where your empathy, your compassion is, and people will feel that, they'll be attracted to that, and you can really help them because you know exactly how it feels to be where they are. And that is powerful. That's why, you know, in the video earlier from Dean, it's people are moving away from traditional education. They want to learn from people who have been through it. They don't want to learn the academics of it. They want somebody who's already been through what they're going through, and that knows how it feels, and can sit with them and provide them with that support. And sometimes that is in person, sometimes that's online, sometimes that's a resource that they've got, but they know that person's already been through it, and it's powerful. So thank you so much for joining me today. A privilege and a pleasure to talk to you. Hopefully this has really got you thinking about this, and I look forward to seeing what you share in terms of your life and how you could help people, or how indeed you already are helping people. Again, remember, who might be listening, who might be watching, who might be reading, that might be either able to help you, or they might even be a client. So yeah, give this some thought. What's your story? Go and have a great week. We're going into Easter next weekend, so go and have a great week, and I'll see you again real soon. Thanks for joining.